Later in 2024, we're going to have a provincial election here in BC, and then no later than fall of 2025, we're going to have a federal election. And so now we kind of want to talk about what we want to see from our elected leaders here in the next year, year and a half.
Yeah, the idea for this video actually came up because Paul got a call from a provincial representative basically calling around and asking people what they wanted in a representative. And so we're like, ooh, we got a lot to say here.
That's right. Yeah. I'm one of the mythical swing voters that I can be convinced to vote for any party. I've voted for pretty much every party there's to vote for in the past, and sometimes it's worked out really well and sometimes not as much. But I'm less going to vote for the party that I've always voted for. And I want to hear good ideas that are communicated well from people that I have some degree of trust in. Mm-hmm. That's really what I'm looking for.
Key thing is leadership. Show you have a plan. Then I will vote for you.
That's right. So let's start with BC, because that's kind of what precipitated this, was that we got a call from somebody that's running for the MLA in our riding, because our current MLA is going to step down and isn't going to stand again. So we're going to have all new candidates. Mm-hmm. So this guy had called and said, hey, I'm having a little get together and I want to know these things. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but it did make me start thinking about what I want to see. At the provincial level, I'm pretty happy with David Eby as premier. He runs the province like a guy that doesn't want to run the province. He's gone in, I feel like he has a plan in mind, and he thinks that these are things that are going to improve the province and the life of British Columbians, and that right when they come into effect, maybe some of us will grumble and not like it, but that 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, we'll look back and say, oh, okay, we're glad we did this. And I don't feel like he's just saying things to get people to vote for him. And so I really like that about him. I haven't heard from the Conservatives, either Conservative Party in this province yet, anything that really resonates with me. And the kind of the same with the Greens. The Conservatives, I think, are saying, oh, it's what the NDP is doing is too much, and the Greens are saying what the NDP is doing doesn't go far enough. So right now in the province, I like that we're trying to tackle housing. Mm-hmm. I like that we're serious about making some changes, like to be better stewards of the environment. And I do think that there is a balancing of that with, looking after industry, and whether that's oil and gas or logging or those kinds of things. But by and large, I'm pretty content. And it would be pretty hard for somebody to pull me away from voting NDP in this province in the next election.
Yeah, when Evie came in and did right away tackled some housing issues, that was impressive, because that's key. That's important for me, is dealing with housing issues. And I think it's all levels of government that can do that. Definitely, governments have got to work together and work with housing issues. I mean, we want people in homes. Yeah. That's a huge issue for me. Like, I'm so thankful we're in a home, and when it rains and it's cold, and we're in a situation where we do have that. And for people that don't have a home, like, it's just not right. So yes, any way that we can help in that, there's programs or anything, I support that government that says, let's put people in homes.
We live in too wealthy a country to have people living on the streets. Mm-hmm. And that whether it's a housing crisis that you just can't afford to live, so you've had to move outside, or it's a mental health or an addiction issue that's put you outside. Honestly, I kind of don't really care. I just don't want you to have to suffer like that. And so if that means we need to have better housing so people can afford it, we need to have better programs so that people maybe don't wind up on the streets in the first place, or that if they do wind up on the streets, there's a path for them to get sorted out and get back to living with a roof over their head. I'm fine with it. I don't care if we have to spend tax dollars on it. I'm good with that. Mm-hmm. On a provincial level, I guess maybe the only thing I would suggest that the NDP is not doing enough of is going far enough with social housing. I am fine with a Crown corporation saying we're going to spend even a lot of money to build government subsidized housing for not just homeless and people that have addiction issues, but just people that are normal people trying to make a normal living, working at retail jobs or at restaurants, and can't afford $3,000 and $4,000 a month for rent. But the province can step in and say, we're going to build nice, clean, safe homes that it's not
It's purpose-built rentals.
And there's not a stigma for you living in it.
Yeah.
You're not some poor person that has to live on the dole. It's that, this is a very expensive place to live, and we recognize that we need labor at all price points. And to say that we're going to have people working for minimum wage when they've got to pay $4,000 or $5,000 a month for rent, it doesn't make any sense. So build subsidized housing for people from all different walks of life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, when you're living in a community that teachers can't qualify to buy a home because they're not making enough money, your servers can't, and your healthcare workers can't. No,
Yeah.
we can't live in that community.
Yeah.
Like, it's not right. We
That's
need
right.
to have housing for all levels.
Yeah. So like at a provincial level, if somebody was going to pull me away from the NDP, I would have to hear that, that they're going to be really committed to these different social programs, and maybe we're going to spend a pile of money to make it happen. But I think in the long run, then we'll all be better for it.
All right, so housing is a huge one. And what's another one that a political candidate has to really pay attention to get your vote?
I want to find the balance between saving the environment and treating it like a toilet. You know, in Canada, we're a very resource-based economy, oil and gas, mining, forestry, all kinds of things like that. And I think specifically with fossil fuel, I think that's something that the world is moving away from. I don't think it's going to happen next year, but I do think that to think that 30 or 40 years from now, we're all going to be driving pickups that run on diesel and get 15 miles to the gallon, that just is not going to be a thing anymore. And I do think we need to start finding a way to transition away from it and have a plan for it. So here in the province, we've got an EV rebate, which is fine. I like that idea, but I would like to see it expanded. And maybe, is it more money? Could be. But what I would really like is to have it taken away from, like, there's a luxury component to it, that if you buy a car under a certain price point, you get the rebate, but if you buy over it, you don't. And I kind of don't care. Like, if you're looking and you're saying, oh, I was going to buy a $200,000 sports car, and there was a gas-powered one and an electric one, and because I got a $10,000 rebate from the province to buy the electric one, I bought that $200,000 sports car. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Let's get away from as much fossil fuel as we can. For BC, I think it's for BC to lead the way, because we're one of the easiest climates to live with an electric car in Canada, especially at this early stage in their adoption. I do think that over the, in the years and decades to come, electric cars will get better and better and better, and it'll be just the default choice. It won't matter whether it's warm or cold or icy or dry out. That's what everybody will drive, but we're not quite there yet. It's a pretty big ask for some colder climates to say, get rid of your very reliable gas and diesel powered vehicles and go to an electric car that maybe the range drops by half in the wintertime. But in BC, we're blessed to have really nice weather. So let's hammer down and let's lead some of the way on Canada with that and make it happen.
Yeah, I know with electric vehicles, like, a lot of people that's going to be their next vehicle. They want it to be an electric vehicle, and well, us for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll get the life out of this one, and then we'll get an EV.
That's right. Yeah. And and I guess federally, if we were going to look at it, I don't like so much that the Liberals are doing this, but the Conservatives are guilty of it too, that a manufacturer says, oh, I want to build a big plant in Ontario or maybe in Quebec. And they say, oh, well, we'll give you hundreds of millions or billions or even tens of billions of dollars to build this plant here. I don't really like that. I would sooner say to a manufacturer, oh, if you decide to build a factory here, we will subsidize Volkswagens or GMs or Fords or whatever it is to the tune of X amount of money, so that when Canadian people say that they're going to go buy a vehicle, we'll pay for half their vehicle purchase, something like that. I'm very nervous that you're going to see big auto manufacturers in the years to come go by the wayside. Not all of them, but I do think there are a few companies out there that will go bankrupt, and we will globally be shocked. Oh, this guy went under, that guy went under. And I don't want to be writing checks for, $10 billion or $15 billion for these guys that I don't really think have it figured out yet.
So put it on the consumer side.
Put it on the
rebate
consumer
side instead of the big corporations getting the without even maybe proving their record ahead of time.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. I would prefer to see that. And on the federal end with the environment, I would like a party to figure out what they're going to do. Nobody really seems to have a good plan. That the Liberals brought in a carbon tax, which from people that are way smarter than me, that seems like that's probably the best way to go about bringing about change, but it's very divisive, and I don't really think it is divisive. I just think that the Liberals have done a terrible job of articulating why this is to your benefit and why it's a good thing, and the Conservatives have had to have next to no messaging. It's just super easy. You axe the tax. That's all they're saying. They don't have to articulate why it's bad or anything. That's how bad a job the Liberals have done of explaining it. At the same time, though, as the Liberals bring in a carbon tax, then they build a pipeline for, like, what was it, $22 billion or something like that?
that like overrun like crazy. You started at like 7 billion and you're at 20 some billion.
Yeah. So it's really hard, I find, for me personally, to vote for a government that says, I'm going to lead the way on climate change by building a pipeline. I just don't think it makes sense. And maybe there's a way to work that pipeline into your climate policy, but I haven't seen how it makes sense, right? To me, this was a political ploy to get people that don't vote for your party to vote for your party, and it did not work out. Just like the Liberals tried the same thing in the Maritimes. They wanted to carve out the carbon tax to get was it Newfoundlanders or somebody from the Maritime, one of the provinces, to vote for them. And that blew up in their face. Now everybody's pissed off at them. And I want somebody to come in with some kind of a plan and say, this is where we're at. This is the vision of where I want to go. And here's how I'm going to do it. And this thing where it is the Liberals say, I will be all things to everybody and everybody will be happy all the time. I don't want to hear that. And I don't want to hear these rudimentary platitudes from the Conservatives that really don't move the needle on anything. All the Conservatives do is stand up and say, those guys sure are dumb, huh? Why don't you vote for me? And that's not going to get me to vote for you either.
Yeah, have a plan.
Have a plan. Have a plan.
Okay, so climate change. I would have put health up there. I guess maybe it's no particular order.
Yeah.
But like healthcare for me is just huge.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If you're going to talk about protecting public healthcare, I will vote for you. Yeah. Like all levels, because there is a federal aspect to it, a provincial aspect for sure. But the biggest thing, like nursing homes, that you're basically taking the nursing out of nursing homes, that you're just dwindling down the care there.
And sorry to cut you off. That is super offensive to me. That I'm late 40s right now, and as long as I can remember, as long as I could vote, I felt like I was pissed off because there were so many people older than me that were voting, didn't have the same worldview as me, and would vote against it. And you would think, oh, well, eventually these people will age out and there'll be more young people and the tides will change. And those people voted for these parties for like 30, 40 years. And now they get to the point that they're going to retire and even beyond retirement have to go to nursing homes, and they're just being thrown to the wolves. Like, why did you vote for a party, liberal or conservative, for this many years for them to hang you out to dry and say, yeah, good luck in these subsidized,
privatized nursing,
where you get the bare minimum of care. You paid your taxes for like 80 years, you guys. You supported these parties. Expect more out of them. And don't let this happen. That some of these places are terrible and an embarrassment. And you think of COVID, that you had to bring the army in to fix these things. Like, whoever is running those things that the army has to come in, they're done. If I was in charge, they would be lucky that they're not in jail, that they're just bounced out of the country.
And the thing with COVID, it just put a huge spotlight on it, but the problem's been there for a while, and government has known about it. Like, this is so wrong that our vulnerable population are being treated like that. So, like, no more wanting to move this public care into private.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's not right.
Okay, so in northern Alberta, we can kind of keep track of a lot of the provinces and the healthcare, what's going on, and of course, because we came from Alberta, but hospital after hospital is like shutting down their emerge for so many hours or so many days, or a 24-hour overnight you can't go to emerge, and so you're traveling more than 2 hours almost to go to a hospital, and you're hoping it's open, and you might not even have a baby at that hospital because all of a sudden they're not delivering there because there's not enough doctors on staff. So like, the heck, that we have like rural areas that you got to travel 2 hours before you can have a baby, if you're lucky to have a doctor there. Even it's just not right. Like, if you can't live and have health and have a doctor and have somebody look after you, then like why are we playing this game? Like, come on, what is our government here for? It's to protect us. It's to help us out when we have health issues, so we can go and get help.
I'm gonna get off on a rant on this a little bit. When you talk about why is the government here, I see that there's three groups involved with making decisions in life in Canada. You've got corporations and companies, capitalists that want to make money at something, and they, as is their right, want to push it as far as they can and make as much money as they can, and they don't care about the fallout with it. Then you've got Canadians that they want the most they can get for their dollar, and they don't care whether a corporation makes money with it or not. They want what they want.
I pay taxes. I want something for my taxes.
Exactly, right? Or I go to the grocery store and I'm paying the price, this is what I expect, right? Then you've got the government in the middle. And I've always thought that the government should be the referee. And the government has to look and say, well, sorry, Canadians, we got to give this one to the corporations because some aspect of what they're doing is really important and we need it, and that's how it is. But then at the same time, the government has to look the other way and say to corporations, no, you guys need to pony up a little bit more, do things different, because it's not acceptable to Canadians. And I've long thought that was the role of government. But I feel like now the government, federally, and especially with the Liberals, but also with the Conservatives, this is not one party over the other, that they exist to make excuses for corporations and try to explain to Canadians why we don't get what we're paying for either in taxes or like lately the last few years when you go to the grocery store or the lumber yard or the new car lot or to buy a house or anything, right? There's none of this explanation going on. You just have a government making excuses for private companies. And it's beyond the pale to me that you've got oil companies making so much money, that you've got the Westons making billions of dollars with groceries. Like, it's nuts. And I want a government to step in and say, I'm not going to tilt the deck in favor of Canadians, or I'm going to let corporations do what they're going to do. But they're going to say, we need to find a balance here. And I'm the person, we're the party that is able to do it. I am sick of feeling like I've got people running this country that they just listen to whatever a lobbyist or a corporation whispers in their ear. And I know that if you're going to vote Conservative right now, you're saying, yes, Justin Trudeau is that guy. This is terrible. The Conservatives have a lobbyist running their party right now, actively running their party right now. So like it's Jon Stewart had talked about this some time ago in an interview, and he said we need to stop thinking about liberal and conservative or left and right. You have to start thinking about corruption and accountability. And right now there is not enough accountability. I don't care who it is in power. There has to be more accountability and less corruption.
Like on a very basic level, that was the sad thing about growing up and being an adult, is realizing the corruption in our world, in Canada.
And we think of corruption like that it's like briefcases full of money, and that it's that it's something really like blatant and obvious that you've paid the army to take over a country for you, that there's that kind of corruption. But it's really insidious. It's just things like you're in a position of power, but then you've got a buddy that has another corporation. So you just kind of put the word in that if somebody's got to get it, maybe it'd be good if your buddy got it. That's bullshit. That is not allowed. As soon as you say, I know somebody personally involved with this, you say, I have to dip. I can't be involved with this. I'm sorry. Somebody I know is involved with this, and back off it. And then if your buddy does get it, you're in the clear. You can say, I had nothing to do with this. I removed myself. I recused myself from it. And it's all of these little offenses along the way that pile up to a lot of corruption in the end. You think it's one guy that did one favor for one time or whatever, but when everybody in government does it at every level, it's not good for Canadians.
Talking about the cost of everything and wages, the one thing that we probably should talk about is foreign workers and how we treat foreign workers.
Okay. I love that we have people from other countries that want to come here. I will meet them at the airport. I will drive them to where they want to go for their first job, whatever they need. I hate that we have temporary foreign workers. That is slavery. I was raised that if you did a job, you get paid for the job. And if you're a fast food restaurant or some type of service industry or whatever it is, and you can't afford to pay like what a wage needs to be.
A living wage.
So then you go and you say, I'll bring in a temporary foreign worker to work at a cut rate, and I'll let 5 of them or 10 of them live in a house together so that I can sell hamburgers or doodads or whatever. It's not right. That is, it's wrong. It's basically slavery. And so I want everybody that's come here as a temporary foreign worker, I want them to stay, but I want them to work real jobs and get paid real money. And if you're running a business and you're telling me I can't afford to pay it, that with that wage, this is the only way I can make a living, you deserve to go out of business. I won't buy from you. I'm fucking sick and tired of hearing about it. You're making money off somebody's back and it's not right, and you don't deserve to have a business if the only way you succeed is to have somebody working for you that fails.
Yeah, it totally is a form of slavery that we're like, and then they're trapped here because their visa is stuck on this program, and it's like a 2-year visa or whatever it is. And so they are trapped to whatever the whim of their boss is.
And that's assuming that the boss is a stand-up person. and isn't some dirtbag that says, oh, if you complain, you'll be deported. Oh, if you complain, bad things will happen. You won't be able to stay here. If you're a temporary foreign worker, you have rights. You do not have to tolerate that bullshit. It's not right.
Yeah, because I even heard stories of like a friend that the program they came across on, they were going to get their flight paid and reimbursed and everything. And even that, the boss didn't even pay back the flight like they promised that they would.
Yeah, you're here. Like, what are you going to do about it now? Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And kind of stay out of the petty lives, everyday lives of our thing, like of us. Just deal with the main big issues. And who cares, like who I marry or like, what I want to do with my body, who I am as a woman or not a woman. Like, leave that alone.
Yeah.
That's not politics.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was a fight that you were never going to win. And some parts of the world, I know people are still fighting it. And I don't think we've solved all problems for people of color or different orientations or any of those things. But as a straight white guy looking from the outside, I do think it's better than it was 10 years ago, than it was 20 years ago, than it was 30 years ago. And I think we're moving in the right direction slowly but surely. And I know that if you're in one of those, disenfranchised communities, it's not moving fast enough, but it's going in the right direction. And now to have a party come forward and say, nah, we're just going to wind the clock back 30 years. The ship has sailed, my guy. It's a done deal. It is baked in at this point that this is just the way that the world will work from now on. And you might as well say, I'm going to take away women's right to vote. Like it's ridiculous. We're past these discussions. We've had them, or that you can't mingle races when you marry. It's done. It's done. We've moved on, and we need to move on with this other stuff too. It's pretty simple to get me to vote for you. It's like, treat people like people.
Yeah.
Right? Treat corporations like corporations. If I pay taxes for something, I want it. Right? And and quit taking money from your friends to screw up the country for the rest of us. This is too good a country with too much going for it to be dealing with the bullshit that we're dealing with right now. And I know that as time goes on, there's changes and there's ups and there's downs and things are better or worse, but that we're at this point now where we don't have enough housing, that inflation is through the roof, that groceries are expensive.
That you don't have a doctor. These are things that for 20 years, I personally have heard different times. Geez, are we doing this right? Are we funding this enough? We've known it's coming, and now it's just come to a head, and we have to deal with it. And these little Mickey Mouse, little changes or little platitudes that we have, or that it's an easy fix, and that it's not true. And I want somebody with the courage to come forward and say, this is a tough time we're going through and we have tough decisions to make, but if we do it in a year or 5 years or 10 years, we'll all be better for it, and we'll live in a place we can be proud to live in again. I think that's the thing. I want to be a proud Canadian. I want us to treat our fellow man with kindness and dignity and human rights.
And there's no reason we can't in this country.
I want a representative to come to me with a platform that I can get behind, and then I want them to follow through with those things that they said they would do.
I need to trust that they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And from the Liberals, the one that jumps out at me, that when Trudeau ran in 2015, he said, this is the last election with first past the post. This will be some type of proportional representation going forward. And that got dropped like yesterday's news. Yeah. Right?
Like within a month or two? I don't know. It was in no time.
It was within months.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I'm in charge now, so I don't really know that I need this anymore. So that's Bush League. That is, I don't think I can vote for him again, ever, because that was such a blatant lie, right? Then at the same time, I can't really vote for the Conservatives right now. You just go whichever way the wind blows, however this benefits me. And I'm sick and tired of it. I want somebody that says, this is the plan, this is what I'm going to do. And if you don't do it, I want you to be accountable for it. And I think it's one thing to say, this is the plan and I'm going to do it in my first term as Prime Minister or Premier. And then you get to a point, you're like, this is way harder than I thought. But here's the progress we've made on it. But we think we're another year or 5 years away from it. I will listen to that. But would you say, I'm going to do this thing, and we all go, that's a great thing, we want it. And then you're in there for less than a year and you're like, with no real explanation as to why you're not going to do it. I don't want to hear it. I want some people that they feel like they have something, that they owe Canada something, that Canada has done something for them and they're going to repay it with public service, and that they're going to do the right thing and not necessarily the thing that benefits them personally or their party. And if you look at it between the differences between parties, I don't think there's a big difference. I think they're going to tell you what they got to tell you to get in there, and they're going to do what they want to do. And then there's going to be an excuse why it's somebody else's fault, why they didn't do what they said they were going to do. And if we stop looking at it as left or right and carbon tax bad, Justin Trudeau bad, or Poilievre can't trust, or Daniel Smith stupid, if we look past that and we put it all on a spreadsheet and we took the names off it, we'd think nobody's doing a really good job here, right? They're all telling us one thing and doing another. And I think we all need to look and say, we don't have to agree on everything all the time, but we do have to agree that when somebody says they're going to do something, they got to do it. And if they don't, they're gone.